Reserve. The root of all our evil, it begins with the Federal Reserve. Hey, yeah, well, let's go back in time when everybody was so proud of a man.
I'm Tommy Salmons. This is Year Zero. Today, I have a show about supply chains and the trucking industry. My guests are Quincy, Ryan Bunting, and Gord. We all work in logistics in one way, shape, or form, so we thought it would be a good idea for us to get together and talk about the issues with the supply chain. I think this is a good conversation. I think you'll get a lot out of it. Since there were 3 truckers on the show, it's really focused on the trucking side and the problems that regulations and trucking companies have caused for truckers and the supply chain. And Quincy passes out. And since Ryan Bunting's on the show, there's an ad within the show for Ryan Bunting. But if you listen to this show on podcast catchers or YouTube, make sure you go to the Libertarian Institute, libertarianinstitute.org. We have a lot of great articles, a lot of great podcasts. Pete Quinones, Scott Horton Show, Liberty Weekly with Patrick McFarland, Keith Knight. Sheldon Richmond is a constant writer. He writes an article every Friday called TGIF. Not Thank God It's Friday, but the goal is freedom. So go to the libertarianinstitute.org and check out all the great stuff we got going on there. Thank you, Tom Burton, for the music. Enjoy.
I can't take it no more.
We are recording.
Hold on.
We are recording. This is already a fucking out of hand.
Hold on, Jesus Christ!
All right, so we are here with Mr. Quincy, and I'm staring at his nipples. Oh no, never mind.
I had to put my phone back on the charger. 1 second, let me get set up. You keep doing your info, and let me get myself together.
Ryan Bunting, what's up, my dude?
What's going on, man? How are you?
Good. And Gord, what's up, dude?
Greetings. Been a little while since I've been on the show. Lots has been going on. The world is upside down.
It has, man. We have like four different shows planned, and we're doing this one, and it has nothing to do with any of the subjects you and I have been talking about. So
we'll get there eventually.
It'll happen. Look at Quincy flexing. Motherfucker. Fucking King Kong ain't got shit on me.
He damn sure don't. I'm sorry. I'm off the clock. I'm not in the truck. I'm not giving a damn dog. Like, let's
go. All right. Well, Ryan, we had a subject to talk about. So, like, you were telling me that the interview I had done a while back with Ross, Man Integrated, you were telling me that there's much more to this issue than meets the eye.
Yes, because especially just since my experience is all on like the back end and like the admin side, the operations side. There's a whole lot more than just getting trucks moving across the country,
Right. Well, and I think I think Ross is more focused on shipping from overseas internationally. Mm-hmm. So I think it's like you're kind of adding in a different kind of angle than he adds, because you're not dealing with that necessarily.
Yeah, because at least from what I've seen since the lockdown, ships are still coming in, which is good. And I actually just started my new job this week. I left my previous gig of over 12 years, started a new place. Thank you, sir. And yeah, it's a huge improvement. It's nice to see that they're busy, but everyone always talks about like the threats to the supply chain, like especially over the past fucking 18 months of this absolute nightmare. And like it's a whole lot worse than, oh, there's not enough toilet paper on the shelves. It's a whole lot worse than that, and it's super fragile because like everybody needs truck drivers right now. Everybody. You can't throw a rock anywhere without hitting a sign that says drivers needed.
Facts.
It is insane how short we are of drivers just as a nation.
So I might have a few points of disagreement on that, but only on technicalities.
Yeah, I was going to get to you because he did bring that up, Gord, because I know you have something very interesting to say about that subject, in which we will get to that in just a second.
All right.
Yeah, I'm curious about that as well. But yeah, so all of this lockdown shit has been nuts because really those were like the two areas that were fucking still rocking and rolling from day one. Ports, warehouses, and trucks were all still moving. And it was nice for a while because there wasn't shit for traffic on the roads. So people, shit was moving.
Dude, I got across Houston in 20 minutes one time. I was like, what the fuck, dude? This is like some Vanilla Sky bullshit, man.
My old man used to call me. My dad would call me from on the road because he's still OTR. And he would call me from Chicago, and he's like, you wouldn't believe it. It's 8:30 in the morning, and I'm going across 90 in Chicago, and I've got the pedal down. I'm doing 65 miles an hour. What?
It was creepy as fuck, dude.
Hey, man, listen, real talk. I made it from Katy to Beaumont in 20 minutes on a Thursday afternoon at 5 o'clock, which is like prime rush hour traffic. That's like normally a 2.5 hour drive. I made it in 20 fucking minutes, man. I'm just like, wow, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, all right. So, yeah, when it comes to this truck driver shortage, Gord has some interesting points on this, and I think he makes some really, really good points as far as that goes. So I want to let him kind of take the truck driving shortage at this point.
Okay, so the truck driver shortage narrative precedes COVID. It's been around a long time, and it has many facets to it.
That was one of the first interviews you and I ever did in like 2018. We were talking about that.
Yeah, it's been around for a while. It's progressively gotten, how should I put this? It's gotten more real because for a long time, the trucking media, such as it is in the regular media, have been pushing this shortage for a long time, and like many other labor issues, it's not actually a shortage per se. There's lots of people out there with CDLs who aren't trucking, who get into it, don't do as good as Quincy does, clearly, and are not piling up those stacks and get washed out. So there's plenty of people with CDLs around, and the history of the truck driver shortage narrative before COVID, I don't want to get into that too much, but what's happened now is the wolves are actually coming, right? Because the little boy cried wolf for so long when there wasn't a truck driver shortage. Now there actually is one, and nobody's listening, right? The company I work for a propane distribution company, so I haul a tanker with propane. We're short 3 or 4 guys right now. We've had basically 0 applicants. Can't find anybody for the life of us. It's the same everywhere else, as Ryan's pointed out, as I'm sure Quincy says. Every trucking company's got a sign on the back of their doors of their trucks saying they're looking for drivers. My whole point would be is that the narrative was a lie for so long, and then the industry has shot itself in the foot by not trying to keep people in it. They don't look at it as a retention issue properly, and they rely on the state to finance CDL schools or putting the cost of that on drivers themselves. And they haven't done anything whatsoever to improve the material conditions of the job. And that's despite, like, I think maybe in my head, in Quincy's head, Quincy thinks I'm down on trucking. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not. Trucking's been really good to me, and it's good to a lot of people who are good at it, right? So if you're like Quincy and you're in that 20% of the Pareto distribution and you know it well and you can go and kill it and stack up the money, great. There's a lot of people who don't, and there's a lot of people that get brought into the business by promises from big carriers that have no basis in reality. And for those people in particular, like if you don't have the grind and hustle mentality, if you can't figure it out. So now you add COVID supply chain crisis on top of this, where other modes of transportation are also getting backlogged. The rails are like basically at capacity. You're having problems at ports.
That's a fact.
Yeah, you're having problems at ports. Like the boats are still coming and going, but like the ports are backed up. You know, there was news items about like 50 container ships off the port of Los Angeles and Long Beach at anchor, waiting to get docks, and there's not enough containers, and there's all this other stuff. But all of that's connected to trucking, which like brings out that focus on, holy cow, we don't have enough drivers. And the funny part to me, and I'll leave it at this, is that after 30, 35 years of them saying driver shortage and lying about it, now there actually is one, and anybody in their right mind is not listening to them and is tuned out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and the fucked up part about the whole driver shortage, I'm sorry, Quincy, I'll let you go in just a second. The fucked up part about the whole driver shortage is that when I was at Crete, right, and Gord's talking about these big carriers, I was at Crete for fucking 5 years. And every fucking week, man, I could roll in to fucking I could roll into the Wilmer terminal, which was my home terminal, and I would see 10 brand new fucking truck drivers starting for the company at one terminal. This was happening at terminals in every state. Sometimes multiple terminals per state. So you're hiring just in the Wilmer, Dallas area, you're hiring 10 truck drivers every fucking week, and you're training them and you're putting them out there on the road. And you got this happening in Indiana. You got this happening in Chicago. You got this happening in fucking Georgia. You got it happening all over the fucking country, that you have like 10 to 12 new drivers every fucking week starting with the company, but these people aren't staying in trucking. So why aren't people staying in trucking? And you got to kind of look at the lifestyle that a truck driver is expected to fucking live and the amount of money that these big carriers are willing to pay them. Because I had been wanting to get off the road and come local for quite a while, but it wasn't really like priority number one to me until this whole vaccine passport talk started coming down. And I'm like, they require all this other shit for our medical cards. What's to keep them from requiring a vaccine passport for our medical card? And I don't want to be in a company that's going to require me to fucking follow that law. And so what I did is I got on with the company my dad's been working for like the last 25 years. And so I left truck driving and came local thinking I was going to lose $200 a week. And I'm actually making more money than I was when I was out on the road.
Fucking A, good for that.
That's actually something that is also scary, like how you brought up the vaccine passports. That's something that's really bothering me. Because not only is it obviously just a massive middle finger to, the entire country, but if you already have a labor shortage, because it's not just truckers now, it's also at the ports. They can't keep supervisors, they can't keep forklift operators, jockey drivers, top pick operators. They can't keep anybody for the most part. And then if you try and do a fucking forced vaccination, you're also going to push away a shitload of potential operators, which you're already running on a fucking skeleton crew And now you're going to disincentivize employment because who the fuck wants to have to disclose personal medical information just to work for you?
Well, there's been like a little meme going around Twitter. Well, maybe not a meme, but like a discussion about a few days ago. There was a news item in the Chicago Tribune newspaper about, or maybe it was the Chicago Sun. I can't remember, but they were talking about how the Chicago city government and the mayor were going to be having Uber and Lyft drivers taking kids to school because they're going to be short school bus drivers.
The fuck?
Yeah, for real, facts. And they actually, the part of the reason is the city of Chicago mandated that all of the city school bus drivers had to have the jab. And school bus drivers are another shortage. Like every school district around here, I deliver propane to them because a lot of school buses run on propane, and then they use propane to heat their buildings. And all of them are hiring. And I mean, it's hard to get people to drive school buses to begin with because you don't get full-time hours because you work like a split 3-hour shift. You only work 6 hours a day. The benefits are good because it's a government job, but the money's not there and the hours aren't there. And so the potential employees you can pick from are not there. School bus drivers are also subject to the DOT drug screens that truck drivers are. So if you like to smoke weed on the weekends, you ain't driving a school bus. And now you like layer on top of vax mandate with this, and you've reduced it even more. So like, and it becomes it's like a bit of a class issue. These morons who are in charge are so disconnected from reality, so disconnected from the culture of the people that work for them, their wants, their desires, their politics, anything, that they just think that they can like throw these mandates out and then there's not going to be any consequences to it because they're not connected to reality.
Yeah. Go ahead, Quincy.
All right. I need like 5 seconds to gather my thoughts. Hold on. Okay. It seems to be that, at least in my opinion, it's more of driver retention versus a driver shortage. It's just like, yeah, you can get any Joe Blow off the street to come in and get a CDL, but if you don't train them right and they don't know shit, then what the fuck? It's like
right.
it seems like more of an issue of keeping the guys that's been there for a minimum 3 to 5 years, make it, more comfortable for them to drive a truck instead of them saying, well, screw you, I'm not making enough money and I'm about to do something else. You know what I'm saying? Because like, one thing I've noticed in my 6 years of driving, which I know 8 months, but I've seen a lot, trucks are moving. Local, over-the-road regional trucks are moving. You know what I'm saying? Like I personally don't see a driver shortage at all. It's more of an issue of driver retention. Mm-hmm. It's like you got drivers, but it's just like, okay, your drivers have been on the road less than 3 years. You know what I mean? It's like,
and those are the guys that all get in the accidents too. There was a study done from Virginia Tech. There's like a school within Virginia Tech that studies transportation issues, and they put out a study a year or two ago about all the accidents involving big trucks, and it was some ridiculous number, like 44% of all truck accidents are drivers with less than 5 years of experience. They didn't actually tell you what it's subdivided from that 5-year line, but I bet you that most of it is the people at the lower end with like less than 1 year of experience.
Correct. So
carry on.
I think companies need to do a better job of keeping their long-term employees. It's like the company I'm at now that I'm about to leave. Well, actually, I left now because yesterday was my last day. Props to that. But
drinking like a fucking pirate.
Yahar. When I told them I was leaving, man, you would have thought I would have kicked their dog, man. Like, I thought a few of them were going to cry, man. But I get it. I mean, they're having a hard time finding good drivers.
Yeah, turnover rate is so fucking high. But part of the reason the turnover rate is so fucking high is they don't want to pay anybody anything.
And see, the turnover rate correlation to this so-called driver shortage, because a lot of drivers know, hey, if I fuck up a Swift, I can just go to useless Express. Pardon me, U.S. Express. My bad. My bad. What but it rings true. If you ever up a Swift, you can go to U.S. Express. You mess up a U.S. Express, you can go to Swift. You mess up at both of them. There's Western Express. There's CRSC. The Sierra England. So it's just like, it's more of an issue of
fucking Sierra England.
Hey, Quincy, do you speak German?
Yeah. A little bit.
Do you know how to say Swift in German? Schneider.
Schneider. I worked for Schneider Intermotor. Dude, I worked for Schneider Intermotor in Atlanta. Jeez, picking up containers from the railroads.
Yeah.
I'd rather deep throw the pineapple pizza. It was that bad.
No, this is something I'll tell anybody that'll listen, and this ties in with that guy Huntsman, man, integrated about international shipping and ports and stuff. Hauling containers is the worst job on earth, and in trucking, it's the bottom of the barrel. You get screwed the most. You get delayed the most. You don't get paid nothing. It's the worst job on earth, but it's the most critical job on earth. And those guys just get crapped on so badly, and it's just not right.
That's where I work. I work at a container terminal, and you're correct.
I mean, here's the thing. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying I work hard as hell. My mentality is to wake up every morning and try to get my fat fingers on as much money as I can. I was struggling to make $700 a week before taxes at Schneider Intermotor.
And then you're expected to live in a fucking truck, have no personal life, be completely separated from your family 96% of the fucking time, and all for $700 a week. Like, that's fucking ridiculous. It's fucking insanity.
Yes,
and so, and it's all based upon the government intervention into these the regulations that go into the fucking trucking industry, right? They regulate the fucking hell out of everybody. Like, I remember talking to a log truck driver, right? And he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm an owner operator, and I'm running a log truck. I have to take into consideration that every week I'm going to get a ticket for being overweight." Because that's the only way they can fucking run the amount of lumber out of these fucking logging industries over to the fucking mills, is to run fucking overweight. And okay, once a week I'm going to get a fucking ticket for being overweight. So I have to add that into my cost of like charging the customer for the lumber I'm running to them. Well, like, fucking get off our fucking asses. The fucking truck's gonna hold the weight to go 30 fucking miles down the road to get to the mill, man. You're like, fucking get the fuck off our ass.
Facts. I mean, listen, I'm gonna say this here, like, as bad as things are right now, I personally don't think that the Congress will become like Australia with regards to the trucking industry. Because think about it, if shit goes left and we actually do start parking on ramps and off ramps and rest areas, it's going to hurt them as much as it hurt us. Because remember, they brush their teeth like we do, they take showers like we do, they eat food like we do. It's like, yeah, they may shop at Sprouts a whole market, where we might go to the Piggly Wiggly or the Walmart, but if the food trucks ain't moving, ain't nobody getting nothing. You know what I'm saying?
And that's when I saw Gord shared that video of the strike in Australia, and I want to talk about that a little bit here. I was like, yeah, fucking starve those fucking rich bastards. Starve all of them. Starve the whole fucking parliament. Fuck those people.
Well, the difference.
Well, you were.
A lot of people are.
I was going to say, you worked in Australia. You drove a truck in Australia, so you kind of understand what the environment is like there more than any of us do.
I have been to Australia 4 times in my life. Did a lot of traveling when I was younger. 2 of those instances I worked down there. One of them driving road trains out west. Some things that people need to understand about the differences between trucking there and trucking here. Australia has a much smaller population and many less roads. So they have a lot more choke points. There's less trucks on the road. Actually, relative to the US, the Australian economy is more dependent on trucks there because they have less rail capacity. They have less domestic shipping. So they're super dependent on trucks. So Australian truck drivers have a lot of leverage. Also, the Australian government is very protectionist for truck drivers down there. So like in Canada and the US, people immigrate here. There's all kinds of like, Indian operated truck driving schools in Canada, and all these Sikh guys are on the road. Same in California. Lots of people from Eastern Europe, lots of people from Latin America. The Aussies, because of like A, their overall restrictive immigration policies, and B, they don't let trucking companies there import truck drivers from other countries. Their community of truckers in Australia is way more homeboys, way less immigrants, almost zero immigrants. It's a very small amount. And so they have like more solidarity. So like when they say we're going to do something, it will happen. Whereas in the United States, there's 3 million people on the road with CDLs at any given time, many people from all over the show. And because of the CDL school kind of industrial complex that I bang on about a lot of people a lot of people in the trucking business in the United States have been brought in from maybe like one of the lower rungs of economic status. So they're less likely to say, well, I'm just going to park the truck for a week or a few days because A, they're afraid to get fired because they're 1 or 2 paychecks away from being insolvent. So there's a lot of differences between those 2 communities. Yes. Australia also has, and this is something that I'd like to see brought in here, although, yeah, I would like to see, I understand most people that listen to this podcast are libertarians. I'm still kind of libertarian-ish, although the label sucks these days. But anyway.
I think we're all libertarian-ish nowadays.
So one thing, if the state's going to do one thing, I would like to see it bring in graduated licensing. And hear me out. Australia and New Zealand have graduated truck licensing systems. So you cannot
on my front door.
You cannot just go to CDL school and 6 weeks later drive a truck down the road.
Right.
You have to spend at minimum 1 year doing what they call a rigid license, which is like a straight job, like a body job with no trailer. And then you do that license for 6 months or a year or whatever the period is. And then you can go and do your test for what they call articulated license for 1 trailer. And then in Australia, because they've got so many B trains and road trains, they have a separate license for that. So it's sort of like, it's like a de facto apprenticeship system, but you don't get like a red certificate. You don't get like a red seal certificate. Like, hey, I'm like a fully trained truck driver. It's just your license. It takes you 2 years of being on the road before they'll let you get near a road train or a set of B trains. So because of that, they have to pay their guys more, and the retention thing operates a lot better. Like, they cannot afford to lose people there because they cannot just go to, whoever's truck driving school and then have some guy walk in off the street and then go down the road 6 weeks later. That shit does not happen there.
Yeah, well, and that was kind of what I was pointing out when I was pointing out the amount of truck drivers like creeps pulling in every week, right? It's it's this government subsidizing of the trucking industry to subsidize these licenses and get these guys out on the road. And you're putting guys out on the road that have barely even passed a course. They don't know the first thing about truck driving. You know, I mean, I drove truck local in Houston for 10 years before I ever went out over the road. All right. And because I was able to float gears and better than anybody else in my class when I first went over the road, they just threw me out on the road. I had no idea how to drive in mountains, right? I'd never done that. I drove in Houston for 10 fucking years. I didn't know how to drive on a fucking mountain. I about fucking shit myself the first time I'm going down a fucking mountain in 10th gear. And fucking, I mean, I got to know the fucking my seat very well. It was imprinted inside my asshole.
Brother,
I didn't know.
Here's a load from Houston to LA going over the Rockies, and we loaded you at 45,000 pounds. You can handle it.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I see the sign. It says 8% grade next 14 miles. I'm like, well, what can 8% do to me? And then I was like, oh my God, I'm going to fucking die. I had to stop and change my drawers, man. It was fucking horrible. You know, but I learned, but I'm smarter than the average truck driver, right? Like, so I can get out there and I can fucking, okay, don't do that again. Don't go downhill in a gear over 7th gear. But I learned that the hard way. I mean, my fucking brakes are burning up. I'm going down this fucking hill. I can't slow down. I'm like, what the fuck do I do? You know? So like,
there used to be.
I was just going to say, like, these people, they just throwing people out on the road. I remember one time I was at a truck stop down in Del Rio, and I'm fucking, like, parked in this truck stop, and I'm almost asleep. And then I feel my whole fucking truck just shook. And I got out to see what the fuck was going on. Some fucking newbie backed up, and he was trying to back up into the parking spot next to me, and he fucking hit my fucking truck, right? Well, the kid had just gotten his license 2 days before. It's like, why the fuck are you out here by yourself? Like, what the fuck are you doing out here by yourself? You don't know what the fuck you're doing.
It's insane. And yeah, I mean, like, that's kind of like the crux of what you guys are talking about, is that it's like, yeah, you get these like brand new drivers, and they don't put them on like easy moves. They're like, okay, go grab a 53-foot reefer. You're going to go get loaded at this warehouse, and then you're going to drive fucking 400 miles. And they've got like barely any seat time.
Right.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I watched a Canadian driver take like, it must have been 45 minutes to back his truck in, right? I was outside having a smoke break, and like, he kept pulling up, backing up a little bit. Nope, not straight enough. Pulling up, backing up a little bit. I got circus music playing in my head. I'm just sitting there smoking. I should have went the fuck back in. Like, I'm totally shirking on my duties, and I'm watching this dude, and he finally gets in. He finally gets backed up, and he fucking hops out of the truck. He's got his load locks, and I was like, "Yo, buddy, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you forgot to open your doors." Motherfucker spent damn near an hour trying to back into this door. Gets all the way up. I mean, you could see he was just like elated. And I'm just like, dude, you didn't open your doors.
You couldn't have told him before. And you know he got mad at you going, you could have told me beforehand, motherfucker. But the fact of the matter is, the motherfucker don't know what he's doing. He shouldn't be doing
it. That is the point. Yeah.
And that's why I say driver retention is a thing, because if you keep on the old timers, they can keep on the new generation and train them in the right way and their mode and image, and they'll be okay. So I'll admit, me personally, I still consider myself a rookie. I've only been driving for 6.5 years. However, the guy who trained me, who I call my mentor, at the time, he had been training damn near as long as I've been alive, you know what I'm saying? And he taught me how to properly drive. Like like when I started, 69 years ago, that guy had been driving like 35 years. You know what I mean? So so it's just like, if you make it plausible for the old timers to stay on, you know what I'm saying? They will be able to train the newer people.
Well, you got to give them incentive, yeah, and you're not going. They're not paying them. You got to give them incentive, and they're not paying them. You know,
that's what
that's the thing.
Like,
well, there's this. You just reminded me. There's this little black girl that I work with, and she's a truck driver, right? She used to work at the port of Port Arthur, and as
Short Texas
as admin, and she wanted to get out of the port, and so she went and got her CDL, and the company I work for hired her straight out of CDL school. Well, I mean, she only had to know how to drive a fucking standard or manual transmission, long enough to get her fucking CDL, and they got her in there, and then you got this guy who got his CDL 2 years ago training all the new drivers. I mean, he was the guy who trained me whenever I went there, because you're required to do a week of training. Well, right. I've been driving for damn near 20 years. So like I get in the truck and I'm explaining to this guy how this works and how that works. And, and so I'm basically training him. And so they finally asked me, they're like, hey man, you're like our longest tenured driver, even though you've only been with the company for like a month. You actually know what truck driving is. Will you take her out and show her how to drive a standard? Because we can't put her in the manual transmission trucks. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Like, we can do that. And so I took her out, and come to find out, like, her main problem was shifting, was that just such an average little.
Are those my boys in the background?
Yeah, there's something going on outside. But her major issue was the fact that she was thinking too much, and I'm like, well, the only way you get over the act of thinking too much when you're trying to drive is to drive more. Right? And to make it second nature. But the guy that was trying to train her to drive fucking had only had his CDL for 2 years. He didn't know that. He didn't have the experience, to sit there with her and go, okay, look, you're fine. Like, you're not breaking the truck. You're not doing anything none of us have ever done. Like, all you're doing is you're missing your rhythm. You got a bump rhythm. Like, that's it. It's just a bump rhythm. And like once you figure out floating a gear is the exact same thing as double clutching, just without your foot moving, it's like not a problem. I was like, just tap your foot on the floorboard. Just tap it on the floorboard like you're pushing in the clutch. And shift while you're tapping it on the floorboard, and you'll be fine.
And let off the
sure
gas
as shit. Yeah, well, you let off the throttle, obviously, yeah. But yeah, she was letting off the throttle, but she couldn't figure out how to get the truck out of gear, right? And it was just such a little simple thing that I was like, oh yeah, just push down with your left foot. Don't even touch the clutch. Just push on the floorboard. You'll be fine.
Yep.
And sure enough,
on this training subject.
I was just going to say, as soon as I told her that, she was like, oh, this ain't that bad. I'm like, no, it's fucking easy. I told her, I said, give me a week with you in the truck and I'll fucking have you driving this fucking truck like you've never driven another vehicle in your life. Like, it's just second nature. And like, sure enough, I've taken her out 2 times and she drives that truck better than most of the other drivers on the yard.
So this is the thing, right? And a couple of old news stories stick out to me. There was a pretty tragic accident. Some company in Wisconsin had sent out a new person who just finished CDL school with a guy who only had 6 months experience, and they were running team, but like technically the other guy with 6 months of experience is supposed to be teaching this person how to drive, but I don't know how you do that if you're in the bunk driving, and I don't know who the hell would be crazy enough to accept a team position with a brand new person like that. The story.
They must have been
reeks of-
married or something. That's all I can think.
I don't think so. I don't think there was a relationship involved. But anyway, they got in an accident, killed a bunch of people, big hoo-ha. And then there was another story that was in NPR a couple of years ago about this woman from California who went to like Prime's truck driving school. And,
Jesus Christ!
They sent her team dude, and like they go to Pennsylvania, and it's their first time ever driving in snow and ice. And the guy's sleeping, and she's never driven in snow before, and she almost wrecked the truck. And it's just like you cannot. The problem. One of the problems is that they have people who don't know what they're doing, training people who really don't know what they're doing.
It's the blind leading the blind.
Gord.
Yeah.
Gord. I swear to God, I don't mean to cut you off. I swear to God, facts, because that was my first experience on the first set of driving. I started at Western Express and everything, and I always say this, my Air Force code trainer had been driving for 8 months.
Yeah, it's fucking
total.
ridiculous.
Total. Because Western Express, I don't know if this have this rule, but at the time I started there, they had a rule. If you drive there for Western Express for 90 days with no accidents, congratulations. You can be a trainer if you want to.
What?
90 fucking days.
For the 90 days. Like you said, this guy had been driving for 8 months total, and he was a trainer. This slap dick yokel almost twice. You know what's the better twice during my Air Force Code training because of how Western Express is treating them. And I'm just like, what the fuck? At the same time, though, I'm glad that it happened when it did because it showed me how not to be a truck driver. So it's like I left them. And
You took the right message from it, right?
Yeah. I'm like, it showed me how not to be a truck driver.
I'm going to bring this back. I'm going to bring this back to where Ryan started about like how this is all affecting the supply chain stuff, and I want to give you guys a scenario, which we're all seeing happen in real time. So we've established that the previous lie of a truck driver shortage is now the truth, and now they're all scrambling. And we have also established that the training regimen for truck drivers in the United States, broadly speaking, there are some smart people that won't hire rookies like that. But broadly speaking, the major freight carriers are not training people well enough because they're under pressure to get stuff moved. So I know Tommy listened to this, maybe Quincy did. About a year ago, I was on this show called What's Left. I talked about all this stuff, and I brought the receipts. There's a book by this guy, and he's a professor at Penn State named Steve Shelley. He spent 10 years studying the trucking business, how they get away with this stuff, how they put forward the truck driver shortage myth, how they sell people on becoming lease operators, and how that's a huge scam. This guy did the work.
Hey,
right?
For the record, do not lease operate. I swear to God, I will show up with no shirt and punch you in your mouth in front of your mother.
And then suffocate you with those big old titties.
Yeah. But anyways, Quincy knows. Quincy is dealing in facts. Listen to Quincy at all times. Whether or not he's wearing a shirt, listen to Quincy.
I swear to whatever you believe in, I will embarrass you in front of your parents. Never lease operate a truck. Okay? I will embarrass you in front of your parents, and then just to be a real asshole, I will overflow your toilet. Don't do it.
So anyway, I did this show, and this was on my old Twitter account before I got suspended. and I think I got suspended because of this show, but that's another story. I won't get into it here. I know a few people in the trucking media just because, like, I've been in the business for so long, like my whole life. I've been trucking since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And, like, I have email relationships with the guy in charge of Overdrive Magazine, Todd Dills. I have an email relationship with Mark Matchasek from OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. I have an email relationship with this woman who writes for Business Insider. Her name's Rachel Premack. I had an email relationship with a woman who writes for the Washington motherfucking Post. Like, and when I sent this out to all of them, right? And this lady from the Washington Post DMs me on my old account after listening to my thing with Oliver at What's Left and says, this information is very important and everybody needs to hear it. Does she bother to retweet it to her 200,000 fucking Twitter followers? No. Does she ever mention it? No. Nothing. Radio silence. Rachel at Business Insider, who I've been talking to for like 2 years now, would she share that interview? No. Not to her 12,000 followers. Nothing. Todd Dills stopped talking to me. Mike Matchasek sent me an email back saying that was a great interview and that was the end of it. OOIDA, they wouldn't retweet it or share it. None of these motherfuckers in the trucking media will pay attention to reality. Either it's because they're too dependent on advertising from the major carriers, or they just do not want to deal with how much of a scam this is. That fucking episode I was on basically got like memory hold by any of the people in charge who could do something about it and change things. They don't want to know.
Hey, man,
right? So now we're actually looking at a legitimate. Now the truck driver shortage thing is for real. It's no longer a lie. It's actually a thing, and they can't wrap their heads around the reality they've created for themselves. So instead of dealing with it, they just like delegitimize anybody that criticizes it, like me.
Well, right. And this comes back to Ryan Bunting, right? Because Ryan, he's working with these containers, and it's like, why the fuck would you have? Why would I, in my years of driving a truck, you know, like I said, I've been driving a truck almost 20 years now. Why would I even fucking bother with dealing with the container industry or long haul trucking when I can make more money, literally more money working local? Like I'm not like it was always like in my head, I was losing money when I worked local. And then I went over the road and I was like, I'm not making any more money. And so now I'm like, fuck this. I don't need it. Like, I don't need that fucking headache. I don't need the stress. Like my daughter acts as if she doesn't even know who I am. I don't have a relationship with my granddaughter. And, you know, my 4 sons, though they're tougher mentally than my daughter, like still not like I'm like extremely interactive with their, you know, lifestyle. So why would an older truck driver that can say, well, fuck it, I can just stay home, you know, and, you know, go drive 40, 50 hours a week and make the same money, if not more money, driving local as I can fucking going over the road? Why am I going to fucking go through all the headache of being gone all the time? What is the incentive to put anybody worth their weight in salt out there on the road? And that's the real question. That's what what it really boils down to. You want to like talk about like supply chain problems and truck driver shortages. It all has to do with they don't incentivize the truck drivers that are worth their fucking weight in salt, that are willing and capable of doing the work, to be out there to do the work. It's like, why am I going to do that? Why am I going to go through all this heartache, all this headache for fucking the same for $60,000 a year when I can make $62,000 a year working locally?
Yeah. And that's like, there's so many moving parts. And I mean, that's just the whole transportation industry as a whole. But like, that's why at container terminals, you're usually getting like smaller trucking companies, some mom and pop places Their fucking their invoices look like shit. They don't know what they're picking up. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. And that slows down the container terminal, which fucks over all the other drivers, some of the guys that actually know what the fuck they're doing, that are trying to get in and out. And it's just like, it's a fucking ripple effect that just spreads throughout the whole thing. That's why everybody's, for the most part, fucking miserable.
Yeah. No,
and it might be by design. You know what I'm saying? Like,
even if it's
I
not by
see it out
design,
there,
it's definitely some sort of fucking limitation on the capabilities of understanding the job, right? Like, you don't understand what a person goes through, like, to be out there, what they're sacrificing to be out there and doing this job. I mean, Quincy isn't married, and you know, I hope he meets that chick someday, and real soon, actually, and he comes works local.
I hope he meets Nicki Minaj as well.
And he comes works local, and he's fucking hanging out with me all the time.
man, listen, shout out to East Texas. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to you know, that whole area. I love it.
Yeah, man. But the fact of the matter is like, I mean, you know, like, I have 5 kids, and this interrupted, like, the potential to make money interrupted my ability to be a father, you know, day in and day out. And then so that caused problems in my relationships. And so I have to look at it and go, was it even worth it? You know, like, yeah, I kept my ass out of jail and I paid my child support, you know, that type deal. But the fact of the matter is, like, now I'm suffering, like, further repercussions because of the choices I made. And you look at the average truck driver's salary, it's $66,000 a year. That's what the average truck driver makes. And so it's like, okay, for $66,000 a year, am I getting what I fucking, like, require to sacrifice?
How much of your life are you missing, though? How
Yeah,
much of
exactly.
your life
Exactly.
Are you
That
missing that money?
that monetary value doesn't make up.
Yeah,
for
am I being incentivized to
emotional
sacrifice? Am I being incentivized to sacrifice 96% of the time with my children? Right? Is that worth it? And there, you know, like, you got people like Gord, who's driven on 4 fucking continents. You know, he's been an ice road trucker. He's driven in New Zealand. He's driven in Australia. Like, he's driven in America. And he's like, well, yeah, I'm driving locally now. Well, why? Why are good drivers fucking leaving the industry to go local? Like, there's something to it. There's a fucking problem that's not being addressed. So if you have a problem with your truck driving, I was just going to say, if you have a problem with the truck driving shortage, maybe you need to look at the incentive, how you're incentivizing truck drivers. You know, it's a great fucking backup plan to be able to go over the road, but it's not a great fucking initial plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good job for young single guys that are full of piss and vinegar and want to see the world. But if you want to be a family man and you want to settle down, it complicates things. And I take my hat off to the people that did it. You know, my dad did some OTR stuff when I was younger. He went in and out of phases with it. And there's lots of people I know that are trucking families, and you know, it takes a certain personality type to deal with it. And this is the thing is it's not just a job, it's a lifestyle, right? Like if you're OTR like Quincy is, it's a lifestyle, and Quincy's done really good with it. And I take my hat off to him, man. He's out there, he's doing it. He's going driving every morning. He tweets about it. He's stacking the money. He's got a plan to buy land. The OTR stuff is for a guy with the mentality and skills of Quincy. If you have young children at home and you're on a different track, maybe not so much, you know?
Yeah.
You know what? Absolute facts, because I've had quite a few people reach out to me in the DMs, and I'm not about to dox them, but I asked them right off the bat, first off, can you pass the drug test? Second of all, do you have family? Because I'm going to be honest with you, if you want to be over the road and be successful, you're gonna miss birthdays, anniversaries, cookout, holidays, all of that. You know, just because like it does take a certain breed of person to be a truck driver because you're gonna have to make with all of that big time.
Well, and I did it for 15 years, like alone. And after 15 years, I was like, it was just driving me crazy. So that's when I started bringing dogs with me over the road. You know, like I was just like, okay. It was actually more than 15 years. It was probably 16, 17 years. I did it alone. And I couldn't do it anymore. I was like, I need a companion. I need something out here with me because I'm bored, I'm pissed off, and I'm fucking miserable. So I need something to fucking keep my mind off of all the negativity of this job, you know, that I've and this is something that I've talked to Gord about a little bit, but I've never really talked about like in any detail is truck driving to me was a job. It was just something I had to do at the time. It was never a lifestyle. Whereas Gord was raised in a trucking family. And this is why I find it so interesting to talk to him because it was kind of like bred into him. I had to adapt to it. I had to figure it out. Like it was pretty, I don't know if natural is the right word, but he was raised in such an atmosphere to be able to do this. And that's why he started doing it as a teenager and he continues driving, even though he's not driving over the road anymore. He continues driving to this day.
Yeah, like I say, and that ties into what I'm saying about it as being like a lifestyle rather than a job.
Right.
But anyway, I think the like whole truck driver part of this, and I guess 3/4 of this roundtable are drivers, so I can't blame y'all for doing this. But there's other aspects to like supply chain madness and whatnot.
Well, let's hit it.
I'm just wondering. I'm wondering if there's other things Ryan wants to explore here on that subject.
Yeah, dealing with customs is a fucking nightmare. Customs is a fucking nightmare. Customs is to container yards and warehouses as the DOT is to truck drivers. They're just a fucking thorn in your side. They fuck everything up. Makes no goddamn sense. They're a complete pain in the ass. I'm sorry. Let me go grab a drink real quick. My throat's dry as fuck.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah.
So Tommy, did you or Quincy ever cross the border at all when you were trucking? Did you ever go to Mexico or come up north?
No, I almost took a job that was going to have me running to Canada once a week, and I decided not to take that job. But no, I never went into Mexico. I never went any further than Nuevo Laredo.
I've been to Nuevo Laredo a couple times. That's just like a sea of warehouses and transfer docks and whatnot.
Right, exactly. I used to go there. I used to go there weekly.
Is Ryan back?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
you were saying about customs.
Yeah, so customs is a complete pain in the balls. And then you basically have several other factors that fuck everything up. So customs is one of the big ones because like if they have to do like a VACA scan, you're losing ground space. You're losing storage spots. You ultimately have to dedicate multiple either jockey trucks or bomb carts to load the containers up, get them in a line so they can run the VACA scan across everything to make sure there's no stowaways or no drugs or whatever the fuck. So like that's just a wrench in the machine when it's like, all right, we got to consolidate piles because we have 950 containers coming in on a barge. So there's like a million moving parts. And that's why everyone's so pissed off. So it's like, then you have inexperienced truck drivers. They don't know where they're going. They don't know what they're doing. And a lot of times it's not their fault. By the very nature of the way, at least specifically container ports work, is like finding space. You're always looking for space. And now there's so much demurrage happening because the moves aren't happening. So instead of, maybe carrying over 200 containers, 300, 400 containers from a vessel, they're bringing in 9. They're taking 9 back. And then all your export shit is sitting because nobody's coming in to get them. So it's like, okay, well, let's just fucking bury that back here and then move this.
So when
Once
you
the
say
next ship comes in, boom.
when you say demurrage charges, can you explain that a little bit? Like, who's filing the charges? Who are they going to? And who's supposed to be paying them?
And that varies from customer to customer. So, and for people that don't know, I really didn't want to use too much like jargon for people that just aren't in this industry so that they can understand. Demurrage is what happens is when the container enters the port, it gets a certain amount of free time, 3 days, 5 days maybe. If that container has not moved off the port, whether on a truck or what have you, the terminal operator charges demurrage for that container sitting and just taking up space. Because basically it's like, look, if you're going to bring in 1,000 fucking containers, you got to move them out at some point. But since they're not moving all that much,
you know what I think is
those
interesting?
charges get passed on. Yeah.
You know what I think is interesting now that you say that? Is that they can charge that demurrage fee for the can sitting there taking up space on the port, and the port will get that money. If a dray trucker, like a container trucker, goes into a port, gets tied up in bureaucracy and nonsense or breakdowns and traffic and whatever, and spends 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours waiting to get a container, waiting in line, they get zero. If they charge a demurrage charge, the port will just say whoever, whatever, will get another truck driver or something. Like, when does that demurrage thing actually make it to the people who really do see their time being blown out?
You have to fight tooth and nail to get any kind of like standby time. Like if it takes you 4 hours to get your can, you're just beat for that time. And like a lot of these guys, especially like the dray drivers that are doing like short distances, like maybe they're grabbing a can and going to a distribution center or something, they get fucked because they basically they're making maybe $125 a move because they're just going back and forth. So they want to do 8, 10, 12 moves in their shift. If they get held up for 4 hours and they only make 3 moves the whole day, they're fucked. And like if they want to try and chase to at that standby time, dude, it like you said, they make it so bureaucratically labyrinthine and difficult that most of them just give up. Most of them give up because they have to go through maybe their broker. Maybe it was a broker that hired them to do these moves or whatever. So they got to go to the broker. Then the broker has to go to the customer service department of the terminal operator. And they're like, oh, well, due to this part in the contract, we don't really have to pay you any of that. And you have to fight for it. And there's so many points of contact that most people just give up. They just give up and they eat that cost.
I think what we need to do here, which we've spent a lot of time talking about trucking and shipping and all this, and like Ryan said, we got kind of into the jargon and into kind of like the inner workings. How can we break this down for people who are not truck drivers, who've never or in the shipping industry, logistics at all? How can we break this down so that they can see why this is affecting them? Like, what is it about what's happening that they are experiencing on the back end?
Yeah.
Well, I guess the big one last Christmas, was I don't know anything about video game culture, so I'm going to sound like a total boomer ignoramus here. But wasn't there some new video game system that came out last year, and then they were basically telling anybody that wanted it for Christmas for the kids, good luck, we'll see you in 2021? What was that?
That was the PS5. It was impossible to get because there's and these are some terms that have been floating around. There's a silicon shortage, which there is. It's just it's not moving. And then there's a raw material shortage, like steel, all that kind of shit, which it's hard for me to believe that because I see how many fucking steel coils are moving from where I work and even where I used to work. Fucking steel coils move like a son of a bitch. It's just are they not getting to where they need to go? Like what the hell?
Well, different grades of steel, but
yeah, but and that's what's crazy too is because like the shop at the place I used to work, they need parts to fix the cranes, to fix the yard horses, to fix just the equipment to operate the fucking place. But the parts are back ordered where it's like, yeah, hey, that lift that you brought in fucking early August, it's not going to get fixed until November because the part's not going to be here until then. And so it's like the supply chain industry depends on the supply chain industry to keep itself going, which in turn gets the products that literally everyone uses to their door. So I think one of the biggest things is that it's an underappreciated process. I lose my mind when I see people like cutting off tractor trailers on the highway and shit. It's like, dude, whether that motherfucker is laden or not, whether he's empty or full, he doesn't have the same stopping distance as a fucking sedan. Like, dude, you're going to get creamed, and I'm not going to feel bad for you.
Well, and I think that's a big issue is, like, people think, oh, I drive a car every day. So, like, what is driving? Like, it's nothing. Yeah. You're just driving. And it's like,
it's not just driving.
Okay. Yeah, it's just driving. Let us stop. Like, what I saw a study a while back. It was a few years ago. And this is why I've been kind of like, I've been saying, and I know Gord's heard me say it, and I'm sure you have too, Ryan, is like, yeah, piss off truck drivers, man. Just piss them off. Because I read a study a while back that said if trucking stopped for 3 days, the entire country would come to a screeching halt. The entire economy would shatter. And then people are like, well, like, all these truck drivers are saying, oh, like, yeah, keep fucking with me. What are y'all going to do? Like, doesn't it hurt your families too? Like, maybe it does. But you know who else it hurts? Everybody who depends on truck driving. Everybody.
And pro tip, everyone depends on truck driving. Every product that anyone consumes, and this is why I was saying it's like it's an unappreciation. I think a lot of people are just ignorant, and they don't realize that like every product you buy from a shelf, how do you think it gets to that shelf? Like, yeah, somebody puts it there, but where did they get it from? A box that they unloaded with a pallet jack.
I think Quincy passed out.
Produce. Yeah.
Well, there's only
food. I mean, that's like the big thing. People are like, you know, like I said earlier, you're worried about fucking toilet paper. Wait until you can't get food. And it's not because you can't go to the grocery store because you need a fucking vaccine passport. Let's say you get the jab and you go in. Shelves are still going to be fucking empty if nobody's hauling the shit.
So here's something I was discussing last week. So there's a state in Australia called Queensland, which takes up like half the east coast. So it's north of Sydney. It's like where Brisbane is. North of Brisbane is basically where, I don't know what the percentage is, but the vast majority of Australia's fruits and vegetables are grown in northern Queensland because it's basically tropical or subtropical. Right? Good farmland. Lots of beef industry up there, lots of dairy. The Queensland government decided that all
Quincy, quit snoring. We're trying to talk here.
The Queensland government decided that they're going to make all essential workers have to get the vaccine mandated by law. Included in the list of essential workers would be truck drivers, whether or not they're from the state of Queensland. So You could be from New South Wales or Western Australia or wherever. It didn't matter. If you come to Queensland in a truck, you have to have your jab. Well, when 60, 70, 80% of the entire country's fresh fruit and produce, vegetables, dairy products, cattle comes from one place, and most of it comes by road. When I was in Australia, the Bruce Highway is something else. So when you go north of Queensland or north of Brisbane, it's like a 6-lane modern interstate highway, and then eventually it peters out into just a 2-lane road most of the way to Cairns. A couple of sections of it are 4-lane here and there going through some towns, but it's basically a 2-lane road. And every single night you get on that road, and it's like a parade of B trains, just B double refrigerated trailers heading south, loaded with produce, day in, day out, 24/7, 365, non-stop, just a constant stream of trucks. It's I akin it, to like Interstate 80, everybody hauling stuff out of California, right? You take even a quarter of those guys who say, right, you're going to make me vaccinate, I'm quitting. I'll go do something else. You lose 25% of that capacity, and then what happens? Tell me what happens to your grocery stores, right?
Completely understocked.
This is what I'm saying about the ruling class, all these PMC dorks that are totally disconnected from reality of people who do the work, who are working class, and just think that we're just going to listen to them. Oh, you should just do what we tell you. We're the experts. Tell you what, bucko, eat shit. I have a set of principles, and I'm not changing them because you've bought into a moral panic. I'm not doing it.
And to put things into perspective, for, again, like people that aren't familiar with this industry or understand, just to quantify things, okay, right? 153-foot reefer trailer takes, on average, 20 pallets, let's just say bananas. One pallet of bananas will have 96 cases on it. 96 cases each pallet is about 2,000 pounds of just bananas, okay? So one truck, 20 pallets, 96 cases, it's a shitload. It's a shitload of produce. So, if you have some hoity-toity, snarky, smarmy cunt that's like, oh, well, a couple of truck drivers won't make much of a difference. That truck goes to a distribution center, and that distribution center brings those pallets in and sends them out on other trucks to go to 40 different stores. So, like what Gord's saying, if you lose 25% of that workforce, 25% of your trucks, so let's just say in a perfect little clean bubble, there's 100 trucks. They each get 20 pallets of produce, and it feeds all those stores. If you're losing 25% of that, let's just do the math real quick. 25 times 2,000 pounds of produce, 50,000 pounds of produce. That would feed a lot of people if it gets to the stores. But if you're going to basically force their hand and make them say, no, I'm not doing this, fuck you, I'm out, you're basically making people starve.
Well, and like one of the things that I ran into yesterday, which I was like, oh wow, this is fucking nuts. We have a grocery store here locally called Market Basket that we shop at. Well, there's one in Orange too. Well, I had to go to Orange to go to the Tractor Supply store and get food for the dogs. So I was like, well, I'm going to stop at the Market Basket over here by the Tractor Supply and just get the groceries that I need, and then I'll come home. And I could not at the Orange store, I couldn't find cilantro and corn in a husk. So I had to come all the way over to Mauriceville to the other side of my house, which it's like 10 miles, 15 miles, whatever. It's not a big deal. But I had to go to another store in order to get corn with a husk and cilantro. And I'm like, really? Like, that's crazy, Now I got things growing on my yard, so like we're gonna eat. Like, whatever. I have 4 cartons of eggs. My chickens are fucking laying eggs, so like I got food, But we wanted to make tacos, and it was like, okay, I want cilantro, and I want corn on the cob, and I want the fresh corn on the cob. So, like, let's do that. And in one store, the same brand store, it was Market Basket in Orange, Market Basket in Mauriceville. The one in Orange didn't have cilantro or corn on the cob. The one in Mauriceville did. And it's like, oh, that's weird. That's a supply chain problem. Like, something's happening, you know?
Yeah, and I think the average person just doesn't realize that that is an indication of a supply chain problem. And I don't think people understand the gravity of what an actual supply chain disruption could do.
Yeah, no, they absolutely don't. And that's what I was saying a while ago when I was saying they look at it and they're like, well, I drive to work every day. You know, I sit in traffic for 30, 45 minutes every day. Like, what's driving? Driving's nothing. So you're on the road for fucking 12 hours instead of 1, like, or 2. Like, okay, yeah, we're going to see, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's going to happen eventually. Either truckers are going to stop going into these areas that are ushering in protests, and because of the violence that they don't want to deal with, or they're going to be forced off the road because they can't afford to drive a truck anymore. Mm-hmm. And the whole point of this conversation, honestly, is to make people aware and to make, adjustments to their lifestyle, because you may not be able to get a case of water in a few days, right? That's all brought to those shelves. I used to run Nestle waters all the time, every week.
God, their billing department can eat my fucking dick. That's just I had to just throw that out there for the wife, because she was doing the Nestle billing, and Nestle's, fuck them.
Well, and they're not always fun to pick up from either. It used to be like when I first started running water for them, it was okay. You show up, the trailer's loaded. You just drop empty trailer, grab another trailer, and you haul ass. It got to the point where the trailer was supposed to be loaded. You would show up the next day and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, this is a live load." I'm like, "What do you fucking mean it's a live load? You have 6 fucking empty trailers sitting on your lot. Just fucking load one of them." What the fuck you mean? So no, they were, it was no cakewalk. It was the only customer that I always had to wear a mask at. They were, you talk about progressivism entering into the fucking industry. They were probably one of the worst.
Yeah. Yep. There's a handful of them.
Well, we're at 2. It's about 2:30. I got 30 minutes before my next interview. So
cool.
Let's close this up. Give all the plugs and closing statements, all that good shit. And Quincy, quit snoring. I didn't mute his ass though. You want to say something?
I want to say bye.
Oh, you can say bye.
Bye, guys.
Hey, babe.
See you, Beatrix.
Quincy
Oh my
passed
God.
out.
Oh my God. Did he naked?
Motherfucker's
Probably
drunk
naked.
as shit.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Well, we can't see anything. He's right there.
Oh, he don't fall asleep. What?
Yeah.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, he was snoring. I had to mute him.
That fucking guy.
Well, I'm glad to know. I'm glad to know he found us so interesting.
I renamed him too. See.
What did you say, drunk? That fucking guy. At least he didn't fucking appear naked on the bloody.
Oh, he was naked.
Oh.
But we can only see from the belly
You
up.
couldn't see the penis.
No, we
Penis
didn't.
for
We didn't see
today.
the light switch.
No penis for it. All right. Well, bye, guys. I just wanted to say hi and bye.
See you, B.
Bye.
Take care, B.
As for me, wrapping up, if there's any normies out there listening, pay attention to the material reality that's around you. Everything is interconnected now, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which way you look at it. And every job advertising that they need a truck driver or a forklift operator or somebody else it's all, everything gets moved around. Everything is logistics. Everything is supply chains now. And, you know, if you know anybody that's like looking for a job and wants to get involved in it, just tell them to try it out. You know, maybe start working on a dock. You can get a forklift ticket and you just get in it somehow. You can help out if you're not lazy when the Joe bucks run out or the Trump bucks run out or whatever. And be nice to the drivers on the road. And, you know, don't take any crap from the media. They're craven liars and obfuscators. And the people that are even talking about this stuff have proven themselves to ignore the parts of it that could actually help or fix things. As for me, I'm Gord. You can follow me on Twitter at Ghost of Gord. Yeah, that's about it.
All right, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm going to reiterate. Just fucking be nice to truck drivers on the road, for Christ's sake. Like, I get it, dude. It sucks being stuck behind them. There's a reason they don't go very fast. If they're fucking full of like frozen meat, it's a that shit is.
Tell the state that we don't need to be governed at 65. How about that? How about you how about that?
We can do that, but I'm a slow driver. I'm a firm believer in slow driving. A point we didn't get to in this discussion, speaking about speed and like time efficiency, I guess we did with containers, but like if you want to improve supply chains, just stop it with the detention time. Hire more forklift drivers, hire more warehouse personnel. Stop holding trucks up. The amount of the American trucking fleet that's just sitting, wasting time, waiting to get loaded and unloaded is
every day is massive.
It's
and again,
centuries, millennia of time. Customs, distribution centers and warehouses, they're just inefficient,
understaffed, under-equipped.
Not enough people, under-equipped. They were like that before. COVID's made it worse, and nobody's doing anything about that. How you can make the supply chains work better is actually having those components of the supply chain that are supposed to be moving rather than sitting.
Amen.
So much of the focus of my podcast is to point out abuses of power and how bad things have gotten and the direction in which we're heading as a society. And it can be a real black pill. I've partnered up with Richard Grove to offer my listeners an opportunity to sign up to his Autonomy Course. The Autonomy Course is designed for people looking for solutions, people that want to shape their own future, people that are not willing to be at the behest of large corporations or the United States government or the banking system. The Autonomy Course is designed for those of you who wish to have complete control of the reins of your life, who are looking to be successful, to thrive and not just survive, to provide for your family by utilizing your existing skills and learning how to market and sell those skills in order to be your own boss, or learn new skills in order to leverage that into a new career opportunity. So if there's a job out there you've been trying to get or you've been wishing you could get, but you just don't have the skills for it, the Autonomy Course is the place for you to start, to learn how to land that position, to learn how to market yourself better, to gain confidence, and to be surrounded by a community of like-minded people that will encourage you and help you along the way. So use my affiliate links and go check out the Autonomy Course. It could be right for you.
Yeah, so don't fucking cut them off. Give them some space. Get in, dude. And yeah, I didn't go to school for any of this shit. It kind of fell into my lap, and I kind of fell in love with the whole concept, as fucking annoying as it can be sometimes, and as painstaking and long hours and all that shit. It's still just it's awesome. And when you realize how much fucking red tape every single goddamn thing coming into the country, or even produced in the country but getting moved from A to B, everything goes through just tons and tons of red tape. And, you know, a lot of that ultimately gets passed on to the end customer. But yeah, just pay attention to this kind of thing. And I think, like, especially now, the threats to the supply chain, I said it before, I'll say it again, it's going to be a lot worse than not being able to find toilet paper and paper towels at the fucking local Walmart or whatever. When you're struggling to find food, it's going to be brutal. So,
Right.
My name's Ryan Bunting. You can find me at just ryanbunting.com. You can follow me on Twitter at murderbeam_TV. Yeah, I shitpost, and I wrote a book. You can find that at the website. Also do graphic design. You know that. Tommy shouted it out on the show more than a million fucking times. And
RyanBunting.com. For all of your graphic design needs, go to RyanBunting.com. Ryan Bunting is not only a great libertarian, he's also a great anarcho-capitalist and a great graphic designer. He designed my podcast.
I'm a very failed anarcho-capitalist.
Oh, you gonna do it? Oh, she's gonna do it.
I told you next time I'm gonna.
Oh
do
yeah,
it.
B's gonna do the plug.
Go to Runting. No, not Runting. Go to. What's his name again?
Ryan Bunting.
Ryan.
He can hear you, but you can't hear him,
Oh, I
which is
get
awesome.
that. All right, so now I'm gonna do it again because
She's translating in her head right now.
Go
She's got to
to
do it live.
RyanBunting.com for all your graphic design needs. He's not only a libertarian, but he's also a hella cool guy. And his girlfriend is fucking super awesome too. So if you have any graphic design needs in life, go to RyanBunting.com. Fucking told you.
Buy his fucking book.
Nailed it. Damn, I feel like I got to PayPal her some money now. That was fun.
Oh, and at BBWs are awesome, even though Quincy passed out on us.
Yeah. He was, well, I mean, he was drinking straight from the bottle like a pirate.
Fuck
so.
it. He was trashed whenever he
was
got
lit.
on it. He told me how to treat him like a slave and fucking whip him before they all even got on. Like, it was fucking hilarious. All right. So, I got to cut it, man. I got another interview coming up. I enjoyed this, guys. Oh,
Yeah.
hey, Boogie.
All right.
And
It's such a hard topic to really like explain to normies, but it's such an important one.
it is. It's one of those things that you could talk about for fucking 3 days.
Yeah, easily.
All right, Boogie. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording.
All right. Take care, boys.
If you're gonna play this game of pick and choose, well, it's a game that was made for you to lose. It doesn't really matter how many times, it's the same old worn out stories, same old lines. They're all pointing dirty fingers in hypocrisy, bragging on their feats of mediocrity again. Never really making any kind of change, but they keep on getting re-elected, and I find that strange. And that's why I say fuck them, don't feed them, cause we don't even need them. I never celebrate the tyrants that are taking our freedoms. Yeah, I said fuck them, don't feed them, cause we don't even need them. I never celebrate the tyrants that are taking our freedoms. What's it gonna take for you to see that we're living in a rigged democracy? People stand in line for the thieves that they've been choosing, paying no attention to the rights they keep on losing. But they all gather in the rallies and they chant their names on goddamn well that it's all gonna be the same. Just 4 more years of war and taxes, 4 more years of them grinding down their axes. And that's why I say fuck them, don't feed them, cause we don't even need them. I never celebrate the tyrants that are taking our freedoms. Yeah, fuck them, don't feed them, cause we don't even need them. I never celebrate the tyrants that are taking